Okay, so my name is Anthony Figueroa, Groesbeck ISD Superintendent. We're a 3A school district, 45 minutes to the east of Waco. So about 1,600 kids, just as context goes. And so I was asked to speak about becoming human alongside tech. And I'm just gonna go through my slide here. We're gonna do a little movie trivia just to start us off with. If you know the movie, shout out the movie. What movie is this? 2001, A Space Odyssey. And of course, that's when Hal, the AI, says he's not going to let the person back in and he's not going to let them destroy him, the AI. The AI has been kind of sentient and said, you're not going to turn me off. I'm going to take over. And so next movie. Okay, War Games, Matthew Broderick. Want to play a game? And he tries to start a nuclear war, and they got to try to show him that there's no winner in nuclear war through tic-tac-toe. Okay. Which movie is this? Terminator, thank you very much. And we all know the Terminator technology, humanity next to each other. This one might be a little harder.
WALL-E.
Oh my gosh, you guys got that before 2001 Space Odyssey, WALL-E. I thought this was interesting because my son, this is being recorded, actually compared, when he saw this, he goes, hey, that kind of reminds me of Grandma.
Oh no.
Not cool, not cool. But it's really about how much automation and how much AI really replaces any whim that we have, and how too much of a good thing is actually a bad thing. No matter how much we want technology to help us out, it can help us out to the point where we stop being the best of ourselves. iRobot, Will Smith, to where a robot almost becomes human. And then finally, Star Trek, which one?
First Contact.
First Contact. You are like the movie buff, all right. And that's Data. Data's whole purpose was always to become human, and even through Starfleet, they recognized him as an individual, as a kind of a humanoid. And so I want to read this. The journey of becoming human alongside technology is not about choosing one over the other, but about integrating technology into our lives in a way that preserves and enriches our humanity. So it's not about choosing one or the other. We don't need to either choose to be human and not have technology, or have technology and not become human like WALL-E. It's the integration of both. But we do have some tech disruptors through integration. We've had calculators, driverless cars, drones, 3D printing, Uber versus taxis. Think about how you used to hail for a taxi, and then now just with Uber, kind of contactless. And then AI robots. Let's talk about calculators for a second. Okay, Arabics back in the day, good old days of how to do math.
Great, use those.
Slide rule. I used to have a math teacher called Math Man, Mr. Mobley, and he would have his cape and he would have a slide rule with him. So, and if you watched Apollo 13, you probably kind of thought of, hey, those guys were using slide rules even back then. 1967, got an $800 calculator right there, which in today's terms is probably about $4,000. But two of them were actually carried on board on the Apollo spacecraft. You can carry that in your pocket, but it actually had some kind of little slide thing that you could, ticker thing that you could put onto the side of it. $25 for a TI-30. 1990 TI-81. What's funny is I still have my TI-81 and it works just fine. That's the craziest thing. 1990. 2011, you have the Inspire CX, and now you have the CX2. But to see the graphs in 3D, 3D graphing that they have there, but in color, is phenomenal. 2017, now you can hook up the TI-84s with the Python software to start doing the TI Innovator Rover, and that's when you're getting into coding, getting into student coding. So I'm going to go back one second. I just think it's funny how people sometimes say, we don't want technology, or we're scared of technology, but things evolve. Everything's evolving. A pencil is technology. A pen, an erasable pen. Oh my God, we're going to lose our minds with an erasable pen. What are kids going to do? But we survive it. But what our business is asking for, and it says predicted, 85% of the jobs that today's students will do in the 2030 don't exist yet. In 2030. That's in about 7 years, 85% of the jobs that exist, that we're teaching them for, won't exist. Now again, some people say 70%, some people say 90%, but say 85%. So in Texas, because that's where we're at, we have a thing called CTE, and we have all these career clusters, and so that kind of looks like some of our CTE classrooms. And so I kind of built this off of a Texas. And so if you look at Texas, here's agriculture, food, and natural resources. How are we using AI? How is the field in that division, the career field, the businesses, how are they using AI in their fields? And so they're looking at weather forecasting. They're looking at monitoring kind of soil levels and what crop's going to be the best crop to plant at different times. Again, there's a danger. Does the computer recognize overgrazing, overcropping, and destroying your topsoil? We have architecture and construction where now we can look to see, architects can look at to see where there's structural defects in certain buildings that they need to preserve. We have with plumbing, leak detection software to identify when we're having leaks and making sure that we're optimizing our efficiency there. In arts, AV, and communications, now people for $20 can have a sound mixer instead of spending $4,000 hiring a person who is a sound mixer for a major motion picture. But I want to also say that we're having problems with AI and we're having problems with technology because we just got done with a worker strike because they were worried about whether or not this AI would actually be creating dialogue and scripts for TV shows and kind of nix make human writers irrelevant. And some people say, but that's going to happen and AI is going to do it all for everybody. No, it's not going to do everything for everybody because if you look at A Star is Born, you knew that one, Bradley Cooper, right? Lady Gaga. What AI would have put Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga together and thought that would have made a great movie? That actually, I think I cried at the end. I had a tear come down at the end. Because I watched the Barbra Streisand one and I didn't cry in that one, but I had a tear in that one. AI wasn't going to come up with that combination. There's humanity, there's a blend of humanity and technology in what we're looking at and what we're doing. Health science. For AI to look at scans that are doing it better than a doctor can do, for it to actually come up with medication, and they do actually have, AI has created certain medications now that's looking at for lungs. That's going to take 7 years of clinical trials, but it's already being done where it's creating its own medications. It creates its own workout. I have a friend who he uses AI, uses Chat GPT to do what kind of workouts he's going to use. But if you're a physical therapist, you're using AI to create the best type of workout if you put in the parameters for what the person needs. Hospitality and tourism is another cluster that we have. Menu planning. And forget just menu planning, but if you're a restaurant and you know that you need to have 33% or less of your cost be food, and that the rest of it needs to go to overhead and profit, and you need to have it at 33%, somebody says, well, how much is that dish? Well, I'm going to make that dish $12. Well, how much did that dish cost to make? Well, it cost me $6 to make. Well, then you need to sell it for $18. People don't always know that, and so they're putting in their life savings in order to be making to build these restaurants in order for them just to go bankrupt. Why would you, Dinner Impossible, Restaurant Impossible, coming in to save the day. Gordon Ramsay making a killing for Hell's Kitchen and going over to other restaurants and understanding. Bar Rescue with John Tavert, trying to get people to understand what you need to do in order to be a successful business person. And so, if anything, this actually can help entrepreneurs be more successful, humans be more successful. Travel planners. Well, I don't need a human anymore because I can just come up with my own travel plans. No, you still have a travel planner. It just makes their lives a little bit easier where they can spend more time with the customer for customization. Informational technology. That's one of our classes for career clusters. We talked a little bit earlier about help desk automation, faster response times, improved customer service, anywhere from AI infrastructure, AI developer, AI software. That's already being done in our career clusters. Law enforcement, public service. If you're a superintendent, you've been asked that question from a parent. Well, I want to go look at that bus footage, or I want to look at that camera footage to see what my kid did. Well, man, we're going to have to blur out all of those all those faces for FERPA. We have AI that can blur the faces out. Police officers. so much of their job is based off of them having to go back to the precinct or pull over on the side of the road and not monitor things, but go and fill out reports. And a lot of this AI can do it from looking at their body camera and filling out the report for them so they can have more time on the streets. And of course, when the Boston bombing happened and you're looking for something very unique, or if there's another kind of tragedy where they're saying we need to identify something that's in somebody's pocket at this kind of weight and it would put this kind of shadow, what can AI do for us for law enforcement? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We all know about deep fakes and trying to discern whether or not we're getting the right information or not. We're also looking at, there's bioterrorism. As well as AI can make medicine, how hard is it for somebody else to go and ask AI to create the next bioweapon, the next pathogen that's going to go and destroy the entire world? And so we have to be cognizant of that. Manufacturing, we can have now junior welders go in with the aid of an AI robot with AI software and actually do 4 times the amount of work as a junior welder than we would need for 4 master welders. We have another welding machine at our own school right now. We have a CNC plasma cutter that could cut anything better than, I say that any girl can do, because girls are better welders. I don't know why that is, but girls happen to be better welders than guys are. And it's true. It's true. Ask any welding teacher. So when we're looking at all these career clusters, we have to ask ourselves, what do we think of vocational school versus CTE? Like, how has that, where's that paradigm shift? So just let me ask a superintendent, when you think of vocational school, what do you think of?
Gosh, for us it was, we're going to go in the ag shop, we're going to sit down, we could be learning about equine science.
Ag shop, equine science, yep.
Food technology is kind of that old mantra to it.
Okay, sure. So and you're saying old mantra, so kind of 1980s, early 1990s as far as what that offered. And now I just went through all those career clusters. We're talking about anatomy and physiology being part of CTE, but we're talking about pathophysiology and microbiology, cybersecurity, and everything like that. And so CTE has taken on a whole generation of, guess what, technology embedded supports. And gone are the days where you can just come in and say, okay, well, farming is just taking over my dad's farm. Now it is bioengineering. It is trying to understand crop and soil science. And that's actually one of our classes, plant and soil science, right? And so it's taking it to the next level of going, education is so incredibly important to continue your family business nowadays. We must adapt, learn, and evolve as the world changes around us. And so that's kind of our typical, right there, the welding concept of vocational school. But what happens to these students when they get out in the world and now they got to be competitive with people, with robots that have AI technology that's doing jobs that are we teaching to the technology? Are we teaching to, because the technology is going to be outdated by the time they get out of school. Are we teaching them just to the trade, or are we teaching them something a little bit more, adaptability and problem solving? Top 2025 top job skills: critical thinking, analysis, problem solving. That's what people need. Critical thinking, analysis, problem solving. Not how to do something necessarily, just X's and O's, but how can we get there? How can we improve on it? How can we analyze it? 89% of employers say that they have very or somewhat difficult time finding employees with these kind of skills, according to the Wall Street Journal. Incredible that we don't find people that are critical thinking, analyzing, and problem solving, and that's what makes America great. That is what makes America great. That's what makes American schools the best in the world, is the problem solving, the analysis, and the critical thinking. We need to stop calling them soft skills, though. We need to start calling them power skills. When you think of soft skills, people go, oh, well, that's not that important. They're soft. They're not soft. They're your power skills. They're your communication skills. I just recently came back from the Dominican Republic, where you have an entrepreneur that went there and he said, listen, there's so many things for girls here for after-school programs. We need to create a boys after-school program, and he does do STEM projects with them, with robotics, with rockets, with science, but he takes a lot of time on communication. They have to make podcasts, they have to make commercials, they have to do YouTube videos, and they have to learn how to be a great communicator. They have to learn how to do things together as teamwork, and so we need to develop power skills in our schools. AI are not going to delete humans. People who do not know how to use AI will delete themselves. I want you to really think about that. People that don't know how to use AI will delete themselves. You hear from the auto workers all the time, well, you're going to say that you need to retrain us and we need to go back to school to do what we were doing. We need to be constantly evolving because the technology is constantly evolving. It used to be where auto shop was decently easy. Now you have to have a degree, and it's almost like you need to be a scientist to know how to build and work on a car. So what is the purpose of our school? Because I just showed you a bunch of careers in our CTE programs, in the real world, in the business world of what they're using and what they need. So what is the purpose of our school, and what are we doing in these career clusters to help our kids ready for the future? What can it be? What should it be? What should our schools be? And I would argue that they're not what we need them to be. We need them to develop those power skills. We need them to have, here, are we creating policymakers? Are our students policymakers? Are students providing points of understanding to support productive voters? That's the whole thing. We were never going to go and do some of the things that we learned about in school, but we were going to learn enough to when we went to the voting booth, we felt like we were competent enough to understand that scenario, that situation, so that we can make an informed decision on how to vote. And now we're being told how to vote by social media is dictating how we are going to vote. And right now, it's actually not even that. It's not party lines. Either we're going to vote all blue or all red. We stop being a discerned voter, an informed voter, and that's what part of being in school is about understanding all of the different nuances that life has to offer, whether or not it is biomedicine or if it's law enforcement or healthcare or how governance works. We're not all going to become congressmen, but we all need to be informed voters. Are we growing and connecting neurons and dendrites? Some people said, oh, we don't need to learn a foreign language because we got AI that will just tell us what the foreign language is. There is still a point for rote memorization. There is still a point for expanding our brains and growing our dendrites and having our neurons and our axon terminals and jumping over the synaptic gap and growing our brains and making sure that we are continually growing our brains into problem solvers. Are we critical thinkers? Are we analyzers? And I think this is the most important one when we're dealing with AI. Are we growing and guiding student ethics in using AI? If you have a welding class, does it have a portion of ethics in there? When you have a law enforcement class, it has tons of ethics classes in there. Actually, when you have nursing classes, there's a class called ethics that they'll take. But when we're doing from welding to construction to our anatomy and physiology classes, are we building in a portion that deals with ethics and what the future of technology will do to our ethical boundaries? We have democracy disruptors. We have climate change, food production, global health, global conflicts. And AI can help us with it. It can hurt us with it. We need to develop students who can take on some of these challenges in ethical ways. So what are our colleges doing with AI? Do any of us know what our colleges are? Are we having conversations with the colleges about what they're doing with AI? And do we know what they're doing with our AI policies? Do our school districts right now have AI policies that are in place? And actually, if we did, they'd be obsolete probably next year. So how are we going to continue to grow our AI policies? Not just for us, for our students, but actually for our teachers as well. And what our teachers, what kind of ethical boundaries do we need to have for our AI within our teachers? This movie's from, and I'm going to expect that you can answer this, but you got it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, with the Tobey Maguire one, right? All right. Okay, so that's right. That's Uncle Ben from Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire in it. And he always says, with great power comes great responsibility. And this AI is great power for it to build, to create medicine for us, to let us know when our crops are at its highest peak, to develop pest-resistant crops to begin with. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Chat GPT, and this is why we all came here, right? Some of us as superintendents. AI for students, supporting and crafting a story, engaging in debate, engaging with a historical figure. I remember that Chris was talking a little bit earlier about the Alamo in San Antonio. We're going to have kids being able to go in, and there would have been so much information downloaded about Santa Anna or Davy Crockett that a student could go in there and they could take one side of the debate and click on that historical figure, and the historical figure take on the other side of the debate. And in the past, we had to rely on Skype. Remember back in the days where we tried to get pen pals on Skype? And then on Skype, we made sure that it was somebody in England and 7 hour time difference. And we were calling them and saying, okay, so what do you guys think about America and the British when it comes to the Revolutionary War? What's your perspective on it? We're going to have that at our fingertips for our students to make those discerning factors. Our social studies teachers aren't going to be the third tier of teachers, because right now, let's face it, science and social studies are the redheaded stepchildren. Really, the most important ones are English and math are your two most important subjects. And then it might be social studies, but it's probably science because I was a science teacher. So social studies out of the 4 core subjects was the lonely man. Those are going to be the most important teachers that we have. Fictional characters, tutors, AI tutors. AI can help us explore a topic, build our vocabulary, practice ACT, SAT, support us creating a resume, help us build those stories. Not just go ahead and build a story for us, but help prompt us to build a better story. And that little icon right there is from Conmigo, so Khan Academy. Khan is coming up with his own AI that is going to be supported for schools in a safe way. AI, Chat GPT for AI for teachers, lesson planning, the art of an anticipatory set, which is your hook, your engage part, if you're Madeline Hunter or the 5E model, is a lost art. And so we can actually have teachers go and say, okay, let's try to create a song or get the kids interested by looking at this piece of film or this music or whatever it is, or this piece of art, and get them thinking about the lesson. Designing lessons moving lessons from independent learning to group work, using lead forward strategies. And you can put that all into Chat GPT. They can do that now. Build reviews, rewrite text to a lower lexile level. Build PD sessions, create bell schedules. We created our high school bell schedule using Chat GPT. Build a scope and sequence. And if you don't have resources or the textbook or teacher's edition, that's a resource for them. All I do is say that we need to experiment, engage, and encourage our administrators in our school districts to really redesign, redevelop, to develop policies, to develop procedures, to have those connections with colleges and businesses to say, what is our future and how do we need to change our schools now to better prepare our kids? And it's just not what can they do, but how can they think differently? We need to experiment, engage, and encourage our students. Not dissuade them from using AI, but teach them how to do it and embed that ethics component into it. Encourage our staff. Don't let them be scared of it. Encourage them to do it in a responsible way. And encourage yourself to use it. If you're not a superintendent, if I've already not mentioned you before. So again, becoming human alongside technology doesn't mean that they're going to replace us. Doesn't mean they're going to kill us all, like in the Terminator. But it does mean that we have some challenges in front of us, and we're not right now smart enough to even ask some of the questions that we need to ask. And so it's going to take us all coming together, a lot more of these little pods together, brainstorming what are our next steps? How do we prepare our kids for the future? Knowing that it's just not about sitting and getting, but it's about, and not even about buying the next $400,000 device for our school, but saying we need to have policymakers, we need to have people who are building and creating ethics and ethical policies for our future, because it's going to be their future that when they get into the business world, that's what the business is going to need them more to do, is not just say, okay, we need you to be a welder. No, we need you to look at the welding field and say, based off of this and based off our AI and our technology, what do we need to put in place in order to make sure that we are safeguarding humanity from a potentially destructive versus a potentially very beneficial intelligence. So thank you very much. Anthony Figueroa. My email address is on the bottom, and I thank you very much.
Yay.